guys, welcome back to Listen to Myself. This is Pearly. Wow, 2 weeks passed by so fast. I originally thought that, by posting an podcast episode once every 2 weeks, it's gonna be quite a long gap. Like I would have more time to prepare for an episode and I would have more time to take a break. But in reality, I think it's still quite like frequent. I feel like because I felt like the last time I recorded myself, you know, recording the podcast wasn't that long time ago. It definitely does not feel like 2 weeks has already passed. But anyway, today I'm going to talk about a topic about how to live in the present moment. But like the topic is like this, but actually it's more like how to not worry about the future because by keep by keep worrying about the future, it prevents me from live in the present moment. And it's really frustrating. And this is something that I always struggle with. And I think I kind of like talked about it several times in my podcast, like before. But like right now, I just like accurately have this like feeling of just I have this like really big problem with just keep worrying about the future and then the anxiety that I have in general about my future. And I mentioned about it in my latest YouTube video. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. I will be really happy if you go do it. But anyway, I mentioned about that in my latest YouTube video as well about how anxious I was when I was doing the job hunting. And the reason that I use I was is because good news, guy, only for you guys that listen to my podcast that actually just kind of right after I finished that video that I just posted it about like my job hunting process in Paris, I got an offer. I got an offer. Good news, guys. Yes. Finally. Yeah, so it's a job as a barista. So it is a position that I would like to do. And it's not in a specialty coffee shop, but it's like in a pretty cozy and a cute boulangerie slash coffee shop place. So I'm really glad that I finally got one offer. Yes. So I'm really happy about it. But anyway, like just by recalling my whole process, like my whole past month of how anxious I was the whole time, I feel like this is really like a thing, like a problem I really need to deal with in my life. And if you guys happen to have this kind of problem of, just couldn't stop but keep worrying about the future very frequently, and it prevents you from living in the present moment and it affects you negatively, and you also want to find a way to solve it. Maybe, yeah, I think it would be helpful to listen to this episode because I'm also in the process of trying to figure this out. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's so annoying to have this kind of thing constantly going on in my mind that I just keep worrying about things. And it just affects negatively in so many aspects in my life, to be honest. And I really don't like it. So, in this episode, I will first share with you guys about my situation in a more like detailed way. So, job hunting is really like something that always like stress me out. And this time, especially because I'm not living in Taiwan, when I live in Taipei, I live in my parents' house. So at least I don't need to worry about my rent. So my job hunting process, I would say like I'm very blessed. I was very blessed when I was living in Taipei because I didn't need to worry about my rent. So it's not like a survival problem. But right now I'm in Paris, it's more like a survival problem right now because if I couldn't find one, I would need to like leave here basically, either leaving Paris to another cities or just leaving France totally, just going back to Taiwan. So the job hunting process for me, like it's just so stressful. And every day I just keep thinking about what if I couldn't find a job? What if no one just gave me an offer? And what if that? What if this? And it's just stressed me out so badly and made me so anxious. And also, like, about the interviews as well. Like, even after I got an interview, I started to worry about what if I perform really bad during the interview? What if I couldn't speak French fluently during the interview? And then the person who interviewed me thought, I was unqualified for the role as barista because we need to interact with the customers. And, I started thinking, what if they think my coffee making skill is way too bad so that they just couldn't take me in? And, I just keep worrying about a lot of like things in the future. And after I finished the interview, I started to worry, what if they reject me? What if they think what I just performed was like really bad, and things like that. And another situation is now like I'm trying to look for some freelance jobs. It's my first time doing it in my life, like kind of entering this freelance world. Actually, it all kind of thanks to my experiences during February and January when I was living in the co-living space, because there are a lot of digital nomads there. So I got to met a lot of them, and a lot of them are like doing like freelance work. So that's actually, I was inspired by a lot of them, that I started to decide that, yeah, I think freelance job would also help me, because my revenue as a content creator is just so volatile, and it's just so not enough for me to survive. Anyway, it's a whole another story. But so I was like, I'm going to start to look for a freelance job. Actually kind of already started it. And, just like by starting it just like for maybe a day or so, already started to worry about, what if I couldn't get any freelance job? What if I just, just like my skills are like no one wanted, no one want me. No one want my skills. No one want my help. No one want my services. Like I couldn't offer values to people and things like that. I started to worry this and that. And it's crazy to think about that right now, because I haven't even started anything yet. Literally, like I only finished kind of like my profile building on my LinkedIn, and also that's no, not also that's it basically, and that's all. And I've already started to think about the worst case scenario of, what if I couldn't find anything, but I haven't even started looking for anything yet. So that's the first part of this podcast, which is I'm like sharing with you my situations. So maybe your situation is different from me, but I think maybe like if you are still here, we all kind of share this like similar problems and similar frustrations of always have this forward moving mind, of always worrying about the future, and just couldn't really focus on the present moment. That's really the problem. I feel like my life is not really a like I know some people, they will also like keep living the past, kind of like they were living the past and also like living in the future, so they couldn't focus on the present moment. But for me, I feel like I'm like this 100% living in the future person, because I always think forward. I'm a person that I really love to plan ahead. I want to be able to have some sort of control in my future, and I love that kind of feeling. So that's why I feel like I'm a really like forward thinking person, and to the extent that it's unhealthy, so that it's just like made me always live in the future and not really in the present moment. It also made me unhappy. So the second part I want to talk about the pattern that I realized that I have. I think whenever I struggle with something like this, like noticing me that I am, always worrying about the future, and also just not like really focusing what I am supposed to do in the present moment, and focusing on enjoying my life more in general. Like I always try to see if there's a pattern. I try to recall and to summarize and to analyze why I did this kind of thing. So in this specific case, I started to recall and try to summarize, why am I worried about my future so much? Like, what's the reason behind that? And that's, I think, is a really important practice to do. And I also encourage you to do the same. If you are also like a person like me, constantly worrying about the future, then maybe it's worth trying to do a little exercise of try to even think like either think in your head or just write down what's the reason behind you constantly worrying about the future. So let me share with you my reasons behind my actions of constantly worrying about the future. So the pattern is I realized that the reason that I constantly do this is because I deep down, I'm really afraid what if the worst case scenario happen? Like I realized I always have this pattern of jump straight into the worst case scenario of the thing that I'm doing at that moment. So let's take the example of the job hunting. So even before I started job hunting process, I already started to worry and to think about what if I couldn't find any job, then what should I do? That's really like the worst case scenario. And at that time, I haven't even started anything yet. And it actually applied in many different aspects in my life. The freelance thing that I just mentioned to you as well, like I haven't even started it, but I already started to think about the worst case scenario is that I couldn't find any freelance job. So I guess I hope you get what I was trying to say. So that's one of the pattern that I noticed that I have. Like the reason behind why I constantly worry about the future is because I feel like the worst case scenario will happen somehow, and or at least what if it happens? And the what if kind of in my mind became like it will happen in the future, and what should I do? My life is fucked and things like that. And another reason behind why me always worrying about the future is also about my personality because I'm a person that I just love planning ahead. I love to have plan. I mean, I'm also up for like very spontaneous things sometimes, but I think in general, I love having plan. I love having a sense of control of what will happen in the future. So I think this kind of personality also caused me to constantly worrying about the future. And another pattern that I also realize, another reason that I realize is that whenever it's something that I really want to get, whether it's an object or whether it's an opportunity. And for my case, I think mostly it's about like an opportunity that I really want to get like a job or like trip or like I don't know what else. I couldn't really think of anything right now, but you know what I mean, like an opportunity in life that I really want to get, then I will start to feel like very, very afraid. And like this fear just creeped into me that I just felt like I need to get that. If I couldn't get that, oh my God, like the end of my life, kind of to that extreme. Maybe not the end of my life, it's way too extreme, but at least that's like something that I fear so, so much that just couldn't stop me from just constantly worrying about what if I couldn't get that thing? What if I couldn't get that opportunity? Like I would be so disappointed. I would be so sad. I couldn't like move on my life anymore and things like that. So that's really like the pattern that I realized that I kind of summarize that's really behind why I constantly worried about my future. And the next part that I want to talk about is the problems. So the problems of that resulted from me constantly worrying about the future. So I don't know if like we are sharing the same problems with we know this, but I think one common one is like it definitely negatively affects my ability to focus in the present moment, especially in the present moment when I have something to do, when I have a task to finish, because like my mind is just like, I think I'm using maybe 60% or like 50% of my capacity, just constantly jump into the future and worrying about what if that happened, what if that happened, what if like blah blah blah, blah happened, the worst case scenario. So I just couldn't really focus on my present task anymore, and it's very detrimental when it comes to my productivity and also my ability to concentrate, which is really bad. Like my productivity just decreased so immensely, to an extent that I just, like, something that I could have finished in 2 hours, I ended up spending like 6 hours to finish it because I just couldn't concentrate. That's one thing that negatively affects me. And another thing is unhappiness in general. It just felt like when I keep worrying about things in the future, it's just made me unhappy, which I think is pretty easy to imagine, right? Because it's just like you cannot, even when you are taking a walk simply in a park and then there's like cherry blossoms right now, and you couldn't really even enjoy the cherry blossoms fully because you are like so worried about your future. You are like, just viewing and seeing the cherry blossom, and you're just like, oh, it's beautiful, it's pretty, it's so pinky and things like that. But at the same time, you're like, oh my god, my life would be so fucked up if I couldn't find a job. You know what I mean? It's like your mind is like split kind of like into two parts. Like one part is so unhappy and one part is like, yeah, you are happy enjoying the moment of watching cherry blossom, but yeah, it's just like you couldn't fully be happy. And that's really like one of the side effects of constantly worrying about the future. And another thing is about like wasting time and energy. And I also think this one is pretty common, like, mm, what would happen would eventually happen. For example, like even I spend so much of my energy and time worrying about what if I got rejected after the interview. I still got rejected. Like if I will got rejected, I will get rejected. It's completely out of my control. I think maybe up to the point when like before you are going to an interview, you still have some sort of control because like, yeah, like it depends how you perform in the interview. But after the interview, you really just have no control on the decision of the manager or the boss. So really, like no matter how much time and energy you spend on worrying about it, it's not going to change the result. If you are going to get rejected, you are going to get rejected. And if you are going to get accepted, you are going to get accepted. And, eventually for that interview, I got rejected. And when I looked back, I was like, why the hell did I waste so much of my energy and time on worrying about the result if it's something that I just couldn't even change? Just out of my control. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's definitely one of the problems that's causing from me constantly worrying about the future, which is, yeah, wasting a lot of my time and energy, which is super precious. And it's just like, it's really just wasting. It's not even like meaningful time spent or meaningful energy spent. And yeah, that's the third part about the problems that's result from me constantly worrying about the future. And like this part later, like this, now I'm going to talk about the next part. I'm going to talk about my realization of like just after all this me worrying about things, and then things still happen if it's gonna happen, and just all this, my realization after this month full of anxiety, and after this month like kind of wasting a lot of my energy and time worrying about the future. My realization is just like what I said, what would happen anyway. So yeah, I don't know, for me, a lot, I know it's like a lot of people say, always advise people saying that just let go of the thing that you cannot have control of, like just focus on the thing you can control. And I don't know, for me, this advice, I know deeply what this advice mean, and I know it's really important to think it this way, but somehow this advice just doesn't work for me. Like I know in theory, yeah, like this is something that I couldn't control, like the decision of the manager, like I couldn't control, and I should just let go of things that I couldn't control and shouldn't like keep worrying about it. But I just cannot stop myself from keep like just keep worrying about it. I just couldn't. Honestly, I just couldn't. So like this piece of advice just never worked for me. But anyway, like I realized, yeah, what would happen anyway. And another thing I think it's pretty like useful to realize is that really I just really need to keep reminding myself that the bad scenario that you envision might happen might not necessarily be that bad. What I'm saying is, so that say I envision that I think that, oh, if I got rejected, that's the end of my life here, or things like that, end of my life in Paris. And that would be so, so bad. That's really the worst case scenario. There's no advantages of being rejected. And I think at that moment, we are so afraid of that thing happen. You will think that, yeah, that's the worst case scenario. But I think it's important to try to jump out of this zone, this mode of thinking it's the worst case scenario, and tell myself that it's actually maybe not the worst case scenario. It's not necessarily the case. And a lot of things in life are like that. When you thought it's the worst case scenario, it was actually not the worst case scenario. So for example, if I got rejected by that job, at the same time, it also means that it might lead me to a job that suits me better, like in a better working environment, to have better colleagues or things like that. So really like it might not necessarily be the worst case scenario, but sometimes I know it's very difficult to think in this way because we never know. Simply, we never know. Like, how do we know it might not be the worst case scenario? It might be the worst case scenario, maybe. But I think also like it leads to the next point that I want to talk about, that really like everything happened for a reason. And sometimes it's just so hard to see the reason behind the logic behind this line of everything happened for reasons, because like sometimes you can only connect the dots after maybe 2 years, after maybe 1 year, or even longer, like 3, 4, 5 years. And when you look back, you start to realize, oh, this all like these dots are all connected. But when you are still like making those dots, like when you are still like in the process of making those dots, you couldn't tell like why these dots are actually connected. So that's why like while a lot of us we know everything happened for a reason, we still couldn't really integrate that into our mindset or our action, and to be just like okay when things aren't going the way that we want it to be. So, but I think that's like something that after you grew older, you will realize better and better. This is really just the case for everything in life, that everything happened for a reason. And when you are like older, you have more time, more years to look back. And for example, right now I'm 28 years old. And now I have like, when I look back to maybe 10 years ago when I was 18, or even 5 years ago when I was like 23, I realized that there are some dots that start to connect. For example, I I started to love kind of just like posting a lot of things on social media, and also like taking random like crappy videos, like just me talking, even like before then. And at that time I was like, yeah, it was just like a waste of time. And then, it was just like it's nothing. But right now it's all connected. Right now I'm a content creator. So I'm creating content, talking to like my camera every day. And I've been doing that since like a long time ago actually. And yeah, like so like everything kind of happens for a reason, and it all can kind of like connect to each other somehow when you look back. So I think that's a really important mindset to have. Like, but this is a mindset that's very hard to integrate, just like what I said. But just like you just have to keep reminding yourself like this is the case and everything happened for a reason. When you think it's the really, really bad case, it's not necessarily a bad case. I think when you try to integrate this kind of mindset into your mind, I think it kind of automatically ease your mind and gives back your peace of mind when it comes to the uncertainty in the future, and the thing that you are afraid about happening in the future. It will just makes you feel better and stop worrying too much, because even if the bad case scenario happen, it might not necessarily be a bad case, and things just happen for a reason, and it will just work out for you. Mm, I hope you get what I mean. And last thing that I realized is about like it's important to leave room for surprises. And I think I know about this, but I'm still so bad at doing it because just like what I said, I love to have plans and I love to have control, some kind of control, at least to a certain extent about my future. However, like it's just so important to leave room for surprises. So when everything in the future is so certain, you will get bored. At least that's my case. When I'm like super certain about everything in the future, I'm like, life is boring. Like I can already see like what I will be like for the next 5 years, for the next 3 years, or even for the next 10 years. And that's boring. I don't know, for me that's boring. So yeah, I think at least based on my personality, I really like to try different things in the world and then trying out different opportunities and do different things that I never thought that I could do. And so like in order to do that, I think it's really important to leave room for surprises in your life. Otherwise, you are just so packed into the things that you plan, then even if like there is like some like nice and surprising and exciting opportunity jump into your life, you couldn't take it because all your life are is planned. You know what I mean? So okay, lastly, I want to just briefly talk about the solution that I think of about my problem of constantly worrying about the future. And the realizations part is more about like the mindset. I think it's important of helping me, but I think it's also important to like a mindset is a very tricky thing. Like we can know about all these theories, but we still couldn't do it. We still couldn't put it into action. So what about the solution part? So the first solution that I think of is about like it depends on whether you're worrying about the thing that you're worrying about is long term or short term thing. If it's a long term thing, then I think it is important to just try to treat every day just like step by step, and then just like every day at once each day as one step, and then another day is like a second step. It's just like treat every day one by one, and it will help you to ease your mind. And then if it's like you're worrying about like a short term thing in the future, then I think a very not maybe not very but like a pretty practical thing that we could do is that just try to occupy yourself with other tasks. So for example, just like kind of force yourself to go do something, whether it's like a run in the park or just to watch a Korean drama. Even that counts. I mean, of course, I wouldn't recommend watching Korean drama all day long to just kind of avoid the reality and avoid like being worried about the future. I wouldn't recommend that for sure. But I think it's also one solution, like you can kind of like watch it for some time in order to kind of stop yourself from worrying about the future. And also maybe just read and cook and grocery shopping, and also maybe just work on other tasks. That's also going to be like one solution. And another solution that I think we could try is that you can like, for me, I like to kind of like at least be mentally prepared of what options I would have if that thing that I'm afraid of happened. Like, so what if I couldn't find a job, or what if I find a job that doesn't suit me, or things like that? Then what's the next step I could do? It doesn't have to be really like a concrete plan of plan B or plan C and things like that, but at least I think it always help me somehow to ease my mind a little bit when I kind of at least mentally prepared of the future, of what options I would have when things like that actually happened. So I also love doing this kind of, and it helped me like when I started to like have like plan B or plan C going on, and then just start to at least I know some options of what I could do, then it also help me from help stopping me from keep worrying about the future because I know I could handle it. And also another one that I saw someone suggesting online is like we can also try to set 15 minutes every day apart, and that part is just that's 15 minutes just specifically for you to worry about the future. You can just spend though like that 15 minutes just like worrying about the future as much as you can. And after that, you need to stop. You can set like a timer, like only 15 minutes, and you can only worry about your future in those 15 minutes in your day. And I haven't really tried that out yet, but it sounds like a pretty good idea. But I don't know, like in practical, is it really that easy to, when the timer stops, you stop. Our mind sometimes is not really like within our control. If it's just keep worrying about the future, maybe it will just keep going. I don't know. Yeah, and one last solution I think is probably like my favorite one. Yeah, I think it's my favorite one. It's just like no matter whether it's like a short term or long term worry, like a thing that you worry about the future, just try to like accomplish at least one task every day. It doesn't have to be like a very like big task, like I don't know. For me, maybe it's just like finish creating a whole video in a day. Not something like that, but it can be simply as be like you cooked a good meal that you like yourself, or you took a walk in the park for 15 minutes. At least like complete one task minimum that day. And I think it's important, and I really like this uh, solution. I really like doing this is because like it helped me build confidence, so that it's telling my brain that I am capable of doing things and finishing tasks. And it's super important because also I think a lot of time our worry also comes from that are like we are not confident enough. Like there are always room for us to improve when it comes to building our confidence. And if you have enough confidence, then it's actually like in for the things that you are afraid in the future, you will know that you will have the skills and ability to tackle it when it actually happens. So why worry about it right now when it actually happened? Like when it actually happened, it's totally, it might not happen at all, it's just like in your head. But even when it actually happened, you can deal with it. Like you have the skill, you have the capacity, you have the power, you have the energy, you have the time to deal with it, and you are just going to be okay, so you can enjoy your ride more in the present moment instead of just keep worrying about the future. So yeah, that's basically my take about this topic of how to live in the present moment more, and how to stop ourselves from keep worrying about the future. I think I actually talked about a similar topic in one of the episodes when I talked about like how to face the uncertainty in life, something like that about the uncertainty. So I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but I think at least like, but I think like right now I'm more like in a different position, and yeah, and then now like at that time I still haven't like gone through this like job hunting stressful process in Paris. So yeah, so now I think I have like more different kind of like thought process and realizations, which I think it's like really interesting to yeah to kind of summarize it myself. For me, it's like helping myself as well doing this episode. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to discuss anything about this topic with me, just feel free to leave a message under this episode on Spotify. I believe you can do that. And then, like right now the comment can be automatically published. So it's like like a podcast version of YouTube where you can just leave comment and I can reply to you. So I would love to discuss more if you have more questions regarding this topic with you, and or any comment that you want to leave, like just a word or a sentence or encouragement or support, anything. I would love to read anything and I would definitely reply to you. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for listening, or if you are watching it on YouTube, thank you so much as well. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again very soon in 2 weeks in the next podcast episode. And if you're a long time listener, I just want to say thank you so much for keep supporting this podcast. Like for me, this is really like a place where I can really just rambling and talk about a lot of things that happen to me in my life, and that things I struggle and things like that. So like thank you for joining me on this journey of tackling things in life. And yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking. Otherwise, I always talk too much. My mom always told me that you talk too much, and I totally agree with her. So anyway, thank you again for listening and for watching, and I'll talk to you again very soon in the next podcast episode. Bye bye. Bye bye.